to the IdeaGen Future of Global Summit live here in Washington, D.C. I could not be more thrilled to have three incredible leaders with me here today with Providence, Pfizer, and AWS. I'd like to start with you, BJ. Tell us a little bit about your background and what you're doing at Providence right now.
Sure. My name is BJ Moore. I'm with Providence, which is one of the largest health systems here in the United States. My background is in technology. I was at Microsoft for 27 years. 5 years ago, I left Microsoft to join Providence. It's this digital transformation of that industry is so critical. So taking my technology background and through Providence, really helping to transform the way we do.
Thank you, BJ. Diana, welcome.
Great. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here today. So I'm Diana Pankevich. I lead the Global Innovation Public Policy team at Pfizer. And my day job is really to think about how innovation can be supported within Pfizer's development program. So all the way from early clinical development through to where we touch the patient. So I do a lot of public policy work. I am a scientist by training, so I like to think about how science can also support policy development and how policies can help the science at Pfizer. So it's great to be here.
Thank you, Diana. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Sujatha. I'm Sujatha Dantuluri, Senior Solutions Architect with AWS. And my primary focus is to support U.S. Food and Drug Administration. But I'm also part of, at AWS, we have something called Technical Field Communities, TFCs. So I'm part of Health and Life Sciences TFCs, where we do best practices, reference architectures, and innovations. We bring in that innovation back. And also I'm part of the machine learning TFC. And it's great to have you all, the amazing panelists here.
Well, it is an amazing panel. And leadership, it's really leadership defined. I'd like to ask, besides AWS, and BJ Moore, who one of the only guys I know or ladies who's worked for all three CEOs of Microsoft to date, Bill Gates, Steve Ballmer, and Satya Nadella. And BJ, I'd like to understand, so you're leading up the digital transformation delivery of healthcare. What types of technologies are you utilizing? And I want to follow up with that with AI.
Sure. Well, first of all, we should talk about the problems we're trying to solve, right? So first, it's about patient outcomes. That's why we're in healthcare, is to improve the health of our communities, especially at Providence. We're here to serve the underserved in our communities. Our doctors and nurses are burning out, and so technology solutions that help make them more productive, make them practice their craft more effectively. And unfortunately, most health systems in the United States are losing money, so looking at technology solutions that can improve operational efficiencies. So we've always been using the classic technologies. You know, we have Epic, one of the largest health records in the world. At Providence, we're standardizing local cloud, use Microsoft products. With this next generation of large language models, ChatGPT, we're really seeing that as a technology breakthrough to really achieve those three goals that I talked about.
Incredible. Diana.
Yeah, no, I think, at Pfizer, for us, it's really about how can we get more breakthroughs to more patients more quickly. And I think technology is really going to be that kind of key pivot point for us, including AI and machine learning. And I think that, for Pfizer, there's sort of the long-standing idea that it takes 10 to 12 years to bring a new idea from the lab bench to a patient. And while the, public emergency with COVID, really broke that model, we're starting to slip backwards to, again, sort of this long time. So we see, technologies, whether it's new ways to go first in human, how it's AI, whether it's in drug discovery and clinical trials. We're really trying to use AI and machine learning and the basis of data. I think, data like from Epic, from other places as well, to really think about how do we understand the epidemiology of disease and how do we try and help patients, handle their diseases through developing new therapeutics.
And a great protocol.
Yeah.
Digital twins. Do you guys use digital twins to virtually test these drugs?
Yeah, we're trying to. We're really one of the things that our CEO is not new, but Albert Bourla is really thinking about is how can we bring in these new concepts, digital twins? How can we use large language models? How can we take data, pull it in, and really kind of, again, figure out, how to get the right drug to the right patient at the right time. And I think digital twins is a great example.
That's incredible. Thank you for all you're doing, both of you. It's incredible. And Sujatha, when you say innovation, when you say technology, when you think about all of these areas that are moving so fast,
Mhm.
you're sitting in one of the world's leading companies, along with Microsoft and others, because we have a former Microsofter here, I have to say
It's
that.
okay if it's about AWS.
Yeah, right.
It's good.
But what do you believe is the most influential in shaping, in terms of technology, the future of healthcare? And how is AWS positioning itself to be at the forefront of these changes?
Right. So, like I was hearing what PJ and Diana was speaking, right? It's about healthcare. When you talk about healthcare, the innovations the AI is bringing, and that's what is the forefront of our own technology obsession, right? We make sure our customers have the right infrastructure and services so that they can innovate. We are not the actual delivery mechanism, right? We are only the delivery mechanism. We give the services to our customers so that they can innovate. So we have like 200 plus services, fully featured services, and they're growing. So every day, with every reinvent, we get new services, right? So that list is growing. But when compared to healthcare, we have a focused area where it is all about healthcare and life sciences. This team consists of not just the technologists, but they also consist of like clinicians, they are medical professionals, they are scientists, all of them. We are working towards looking at what the next steps would be in terms of innovation, bringing in the AI, including the generative AI. And we have health AI services, which are specifically tailored for health, right? Like the genomics, right? If you want to do sequencing on top of it and do precision medicine, this is where AWS provides health omics, which enables the customers to do precision medicine. It provides Health Lake for the interoperability for Fire and HL7. And also it provides health imaging. So these health AI services are specifically tailored for healthcare, coupled with generative AI, which provides more capabilities so that the customers can innovate on that thing, right? So
Generative AI, I just can't, it's amazing to think about the direction we're heading, and we could have another summit on AI. It's moving fast and it's impacting everything, including especially healthcare. And so Diana, your key goals in integrating emerging technologies, which I know probably encompasses AI as well, into Pfizer's strategies. How is this happening? And how do you foresee these technologies impacting healthcare and pharmaceutical research, perhaps over the next decade?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, from Pfizer's perspective, and kind of talking to the scientists, talking to our clinical researchers, we're really trying to create an environment for our colleagues to experiment. We have constraints like patient data privacy, and we want to make sure that we're protecting all that. But within the confines of the firewalls we create, we're testing generative AI systems. We're trying to figure out, how can we use AI to help with regulatory submissions, for example? How can we use AI to discover new molecules? So one of the things that I try and do is to make sure that the laws and the regulations, the external environment continue to allow us to experiment. And then we go through our regulatory processes, of course, to kind of deliver. I think in terms of the future where AI and Gen AI and large language models can really help is speed. And honestly, I'm going to say something very boring: paperwork. I think it's going to be a massive, massive help with paperwork. When it comes, I'll give two quick examples. One, so when a company like Pfizer wants to start a clinical trial, we have to put together protocols and put submissions to the FDA. I'm sure you're familiar, to EMA, to all these regulators. How can we use AI to start that process more efficiently, more effectively? The other piece is that, and this is where I think the data comes in, and this is more future seeing, but also with AI. So right now, when you run a clinical trial, you're looking for safety signals and efficacy signals, but really safety signals initially. And that's a human thing. can we use AI to empower humans so that we can see these safety signals earlier, so we can make decisions earlier on whether or not this is the right pathway to go, whether or not this is going to be helpful for patients. And so I really think, again, some of the boring stuff, but important, don't get me wrong, very important, is going to get sped up. So that way our scientists can spend more time, thinking about creatively, and they're spending less time, or even, on regulator side, they can spend less time shuffling through the paperwork, but finding the right information quickly and being able to move forward.
That's a wild and very, for me, inspiring angle on the utilization of AI, because while there's concern that it will take over some of these tasks are repetitive, simple and repetitive perhaps, that means that job satisfaction, I'm reading into it just a step further, should go up. And the tasks that any employee would have would be less redundant and boring.
Yeah.
And so maybe there's an upskilling that's going to be necessary. Well, more than likely there'll be an upskilling that will be necessary, but it will be the tasks will be much more, I think, rewarding potentially.
Very possible.
Very
Yeah,
possible.
I think that's very possible. And again, I feel that, the predictive nature of generative AI, or the ability of AI to take a lot of that data, surface the important information, and then the human can go in and do the creative thinking, start to connect the dots, maybe in addition to where AI has come. So I do think that, while there is going to be a workforce need to upskill and understand and leverage AI, I think we're going to allow, and I even see that in the policy space. I'm already starting to do that in my job, where instead of reading a 50-page report that comes out, I put it into the system, and then I can, now I can spend time. Right. And now I can spend more of my time being creative and thinking about, well, how do I use this information now?
That is efficient.
Yes.
That's incredible. But I suspect also that students are doing the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, part of it is how are you, and I'm sure
These are the
how are you
tools.
using it? This is the
Yeah.
tools.
The
How
tools.
do you use the tool?
Yeah. Do you teach kids the old ways and they get in the workforce and now they're hamstrung, or do you allow them to leverage these new technologies, and then what are the skills on top of generative
On top of
that
that.
they could be adding value?
Right.
Yeah, we
Incredible.
want to
You're
increase
not going to
its-
put the genie back in the bottle. We got to
Right.
shut the genies out. And what do we do now that the genie's
The
out?
genie's out of the bottle. So that brings us to the genie at AWS. What are you seeing?
So on the AWS front, right, there's a lot of innovation that I see from the customers as well as from the AWS itself. Like we have so many generative AI solutions that are coming up. The drug discovery book, you were talking about it, and I was thinking, wow, that's the exact thing, right? Summarization, the content generation. There's so much of generative AI capabilities that are being utilized in healthcare space and life sciences space. So you are able to see that you can do now precision medicine. You can do detect the anomalies, the side effects of the drugs, right? All of those are happening with the large language models. So this amazing trend here, right? And to your question earlier, like why do we want our kids are also utilizing Gen AI, but think about it, they are not doing normal work. They are just summarizing and content creation, but they are also thinking now future. So they have now time to focus on something more than just doing the routine assignments, right? So I think time well utilized there, right? From AWS perspective, we are enabling those innovations. We are bringing that bedrock with Amazon Q. With, of course, you can go and build a Party Rock app in minutes, just like that. So that's innovation.
In minutes.
Yeah. You just go into Party Rock and just say, create me a web app. And I was amazed. It just created a web app, which took me so many months to create. So
Right.
it's making it too
design,
fast.
forms.
Yeah.
That's right.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything's designed. And so, BJ, let's ask you now.
Sure.
What technology have you employed? What has been the impact of some of the technology, and what types of technology are you using it?
Again, I'll start with the problem. In the United States, I think it's a worldwide issue, but definitely in the United States, we have a nurse and doctor crisis. The doctors that are currently practicing are burning out, so they're retiring early, or they're aging out and they're retiring, and the students that are coming in, the nursing and doctor ranks aren't filling the ranks. And so we already don't have enough nurses and doctors to serve our communities. So similarly, maybe on SecDeals, still your paperwork idea, We estimate there are nurses and doctors at Providence, 50% of their workload is administrative. So 50% is patient care and why they went to medical school. The other 50% is this unsexy stuff. And so this is where we think generative AI can solve that, take that burden, automatically write the patient notes. You have a device in the room, an iPhone that's listening to the conversation between the patient and the doctor, and automatically adds things to Epic, so they no longer have to have fingers on the keyboard. We've developed a solution called Prov Aria. One of the biggest issues after the pandemic is patients now message their doctors. So they're already burned out. At Providence, our doctors receive 700,000 messages a month. So it's just one more burden on them. And on average, it takes our doctors 3.5 days to get through the mailbox. First in, first out. So if I have an emergency, send something into my doctor, it's going to take them 3.5 days to review it. So using generative AI, we're now triaging the messages. And the generative AI is making a decision to escalate the most important issues. So a real example, we had a patient that submitted a message and they were having suicidal ideation. 8 months ago, it would have taken the doctor 3.5 days to see that, and 3.5 days, it could have been too late. Generative AI served that to the doctor. They were immediately able to see that this patient's kind of cry for help, reached out to the patient and potentially intervened. So it is paperwork, but it's also how do you put the most important things in front of the doctor first?
And it's saving real lives. This is
lives.
real people.
Yeah,
This is people
exactly.
behind this. So that's incredible to hear. Sujatha, what are some of the key projects or initiatives you're currently working on at the AWS that aim to transform healthcare services through cloud and data?
So I have been part of as was mentioning earlier, I'm part of the Healthcare and Life Sciences TFC, right? So as part of that, my focus area is genomics. So I'm mostly focused on that area, but there's a lot happening. One example is Health Scribe, which is going to take the doctor's notes. It's going to, as this patient is speaking, it's actually transforming it, creating that notes, and then generating the prescription, helping with the prescription. There's a lot that it can do, right?
Submitting
But
the orders, solve the logistics.
Exactly. And on top of that, I'm also working with the omics, using the omics workflows, the data that gets submitted in the VCF files and all of that, and extracting and using the information of compounds in the drugs and utilizing that to see where it can impact on that particular gene. Right. So that's one project I'm supporting along with all the experts in that field, right? So that's one of them. And there's another project where we are trying to expand. So one thing I've noticed as part of the health AI services is the amount, it's like workflows, but sequence workflows, right? It also requires to be versioned. It also requires release and change management, testing, and all of that. So we are trying to automate that and provide that as part of the private, it's going to be an open source, it's under review, will be released soon. And there are other initiatives to support the multi-omics, multimodal analysis. So that way, when we have to take decisions on precision medicine, or we have to take a holistic approach of understanding your data, both from other modalities, including the omics, if you have to take that decisions, that data is available for you. The reference architecture, the enhancements around it, that's where I'm more focused on right now.
Okay. Wow. And so, Diana, in your role at Pfizer, you're leveraging technology, you've already said. And so this technology can enhance the drug development and the patient outcomes, right? What's a great example of a current project that you're working on that utilizes that?
There's so many.
So many.
Actually, a little bit of a different example. So there's a lot of challenges around misinformation, especially when it comes to drugs, and you also think about counterfeits. But you also think about the size of the web. So we have colleagues who are thinking about how can we leverage AI to find misinformation, find, counterfeit drugs, and be able to identify it and make sure it doesn't hit, the patient, or it doesn't hit the, 16-year-old that went on the web and ordered, X, Y, or Z drug. So I think that's kind of one really tangible example I could give. I think really quickly, I know you asked for one, I'm gonna sneak in another one. The other one we're thinking about with AI is around clinical trial data. But then also thinking about how can we get patients to clinical trials better?
That's a huge problem.
So how can we leverage Epic? How can we leverage some of these electronic healthcare records to then generate information for doctors to say, by the way, this patient may be interested in or may qualify for these 5 trials, and being able to connect and say, well, not only these 5 trials, but they also happen to be within 10 miles of this patient and where they live, and this is how they qualify. Because there's a lot of value in getting patients into clinical research. A lot of, that allows them to, potentially not only help others in the development of drug, but also for themselves, potentially find solutions for their healthcare issues. So 2 quick examples, but, really across Pfizer, we're trying to figure out how can we leverage AI to help the patient.
Well, Albert Barla, all the team at Pfizer, so proud of the work you've done. Clearly, coming out of the pandemic, thank you for everything. 2 or 3 Pfizer shots at least.
I did not pay George.
No, you did not. There was no payment there, but feeling good. And want to say thank you, BJ, for all you're doing on the transformation of healthcare, leading the way at Providence. You led the way at Microsoft, and you're just getting started, right?
I am just getting started.
And Sujatha, thank you, AWS, leading the way as well, changing the world. And let's see where we land. We're obviously, you're all excited about where we're going. What's your final call to action, BJ, for our global audience?
I kind of mentioned it earlier, or re-mention it. This is probably the single biggest wave of technology in world history. And we're not going to put the genie back in the bottle. So how do we embrace it? How do we make sure it's safe, it's equitable, it's ethical, do all of those things? Because turning back to the days before this generation of AI doesn't exist. So how do we embrace it, adopt it, create the rails because it can be used for good?
So I'll ask you, is there a moment, is there like that pre and post moment that you see that the world really changed that day? That
September 2022, in that time frame when ChatGPT 3.0 to 3.5 kind of transition, that's where we saw it. Large language models have been worked on for a long time, but that was kind of the inflection point where it really took on a level of capability, that was order of magnitude of what it was doing before.
Yeah, that was unforeseen.
That was the day. And then, for the last 18 months, we're just seeing these huge advancements.
So pre-22, September 22, post-September 22.
Yeah.
Incredible. So we'll start a new calendar this month.
Maybe.
Okay. Sure. And
I think it was a call to action. So I'm actually going to put on my public policy hat. I think there's a lot of really interesting dialogue here. Again, looking out in DC, you can see the Capitol over there. There's a lot of really interesting dialogue happening on the Hill, at the FDA, around AI. Senator Schumer, in a bipartisan, put out an AI report yesterday, the day before. I really think that it's really important that our policymakers bring in the technologists like BJ, like Sujatha, like me, like others, to really parse out concepts around risk, high risk, low risk. I think I would actually take your time point a couple months before. So like the first kind of Bing stories that summer, there was some scary stuff. And I think that started the policymakers down this pathway. And it's just a couple months, but
That's good.
but I think that
universe.
was, that all started a huge conversation around what does the public policy space for AI look like. And I would really, my call to action is to really bring in across the board different types of groups. And I think we have a good example here that are leveraging AI, and how do we create policies that enable innovation and protect the patients? And I think we can do both, but I think we have to have some really good dialogue. And it's starting, it's getting there. I think we just got to continue.
I love it. And thanks for your leadership on that topic. And it has to be intentional. And it is because of folks like yourself.
Thank
So
you.
thank you and your company, Pfizer. Sujatha,
So-
last word.
Yeah, for sure. I'll double down on what Diana was saying and of course what PJ was saying. It has to be innovation, right? But innovation in a very responsible manner. So responsible AI is so very critical and AWS is so focused on that. Whatever you do, it has to be responsible. It should follow the policies. It should follow the securities. So that way, it doesn't give you the side effects. Healthcare is very important. We are talking about people's lives here. So it has got to be very, very critical that whatever we are doing with generative AI, it's amazing the capabilities, but we also judge responsibly whether it is the right one, put the human in the loop, ensure that the policies are followed as we are developing. But we can achieve the innovations, and AWS is working towards responsible AI, and we will work towards that.
AWS, Pfizer, Providence leading the way. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. Really appreciate it. Thank you.